So what happened was, Suge and I are childhood friends, and I was an active Compton police officer at the time. And my father, who was I believe he was a sergeant at the time over the gang and homicide units for the City of Compton Police Department, we had got some intel that some of the guys that were currently working for Suge was planning on kidnapping him and extorting him for some money. And we brought that to him, and he and I started talking, and he was like, Reg, I really need you to come over and help me out. I'm making moves, and I'm doing pretty good. You know, the company's doing good, but I just need somebody that I can trust, that can watch over for me to try to keep you guys, keep the guys who I'm helping out, who are friends, and I don't know, if to believe this or not, or if this intel is accurate, but, somebody that I can trust to be with me, to watch over me, and that's when I decided to open up the private security company, and then I'm going to start working for him. 1994 is when I started working directly and hired the company. Started the company, but in 1993 is when I was working directly for Suge and the company. To be honest, I knew from the beginning because I was going to the prison with Suge that was near Canada. I remember taking a limousine that came from Canada and sitting in the parking lot of the prison, waiting for Suge and David Kennedy, who went inside the prison to meet with Tupac. But initially, Suge's whole thing was going up there with really to check on Tupac. Tupac had his girlfriend at the time reach out to him and to tell him that, Interscope wasn't taking care of him, and he didn't have any funds or any money on his book, and he needed some assistance. So Suge immediately shot $15,000 and put it on his book. And the girlfriend called and told him thank you. They started having dialogue of how bad Tupac was doing, even though he had a #1 album on the charts at the time, the song with Dear Mama on it, Against the World. And then Suge went up and visited him. We had a few conversations. I wasn't privy to the conversation between Tupac and Suge. But of course, when Suge came back to the bar for coming to prison, he was like, hey, look like Tupac to sign with us. He wanted me to try to get him out. If we can get him out on the appeal bar, he's going to sign with us, and we're going to make it happen. And so that eventually did happen. Suge got Interscope and himself to put up $1.5 million bond. He got out. Signed with Suge. Got pro. Of course, I made a couple for Yellow. And I saw him before Suge did. I'm the one that actually picked him up from the airport, put him in a limo, and brought him back to 10M Studios. And kind of had a seizure that night. We were so excited. And got him and took him to the Peninsula Hotel where he stayed for his first 3 or 4 months of the treatment. Suge was more closer to Tupac as far as hanging out with, going to clubs and taking a female to Hawaii and stuff like that, which is true. He had more in common. At the time, Dre was on probation, so he was on house arrest. Snoop was fighting his murder trial, so he had restrictions. The Dog Pound was young, and they represented the blue side of the Crip Blood stuff. And so they didn't really hang like that, but everybody was respecting each other. So then the only other person was Danny Boy, that was an artist, and he was 70 years old. I believe I don't know why Nate Dogg wasn't there originally, but people then start having problems that he might have been going through his trial at the time. Because I think maybe he was going through his trial at the time, and Pac did like 3 or 4 videos at one time. I can't really say about the All About You video, but I know everybody was happy and content. The only time that people was unhappy and confusion came with Tupac and the artist was one time with Sam Sneed, which that was everybody picking on Sam Sneed behind the video. He won a shot out there in Pittsburgh and then invited his label at that. But that was the bigger picture. That wasn't even about Sam Sneed. That was more about them trying to separate and get rid of Dr. Dre at the time when that incident happened, because that was right when Snoop got found now guilty on the murder case. Suge manipulated to turn everybody against Dre right that day, and started picking on people that were close to Sam Sneed. I mean, to Dr. Dre, such as Sam Sneed, and he had just shot a video, which everybody know that was really in that Sam Sneed wouldn't have been able to got no money for no budget from Interscope or from anybody without Suge giving the okay for it. And that was just all a big manipulation to try to turn everybody against Dr. Dre at the time. No videos or anything like that. It just comes from manipulation of Suge trying to turn everybody against Dr. Dre. The time that there was a problem between artists was at the end before Tupac got killed, was when Snoop, when they got on the radio in New York, when we was out there for the MTV Awards around September the 3rd or the 4th, and he got on the radio out there and said he didn't have any problems with Biggie Small or anybody in New York. He'll do a song with Biggie Small, and Tupac was like, how could Snoop do that or say that about me? And say that now they know we're not a family, we're not one, and he put us out there showing that we're not family for him. And as much as I've been saying about Biggie Small and Bad Boy's record at the time, for him to say we'll go and do a song with them. That was the only time, and that's when Tupac was like, I'm not big. And that was the only reason that Snoop wasn't sitting in the backseat of that car when they got shot up, because Snoop would have been in there because they were all running as CPs and Fives at the time. Suge, Snoop, and Tupac, and Hammer, and there. It was just with certain people, because generally, if you wasn't in the drama at the time, you were unhappy. Everybody was happy. I mean, Suge was a real generous person. He made sure everybody that never put out albums, they lived like millionaires. Nate Dogg had never put out an album prior to Suge going to jail. The Lady of Rage. All these people are household names that never really put out an album, but all were driving around in the newest cars. Had nice, Danny Boy. Had nice cars, had maids, had assistants, had nice houses on Wilshire. So people wasn't unhappy. People got unhappy when Suge was incarcerated, and he stopped looking out for certain people as he was doing prior to being incarcerated. Well, number one, Tupac had, he was getting $5,000 a day petty cash just to walk around with pocket money. He was staying him and his homeboys and one security guy was staying at the Peninsula Hotel every day until they moved into a spot on Wilshire, and then he also had a spot in Calabasas. He had every car. He had about 4 or 5 cars with it. And you got to remember, all this was done in an 8-month period. The man was broke prior to coming to death row. He was broke, and then he come to death row, and he got all this within an 8-month period. Everybody knows, anybody in the business knows, if you ever had a contract done, any record, a record contract or phone one, most royalty payments don't start getting paid His album came out, February, All Eyes on Me came out February 29th of '07. He wasn't even, he was just probably ready to get his first royalty check from the company, from Buffalo. If it's 90 days to 180 days, I think, 120 days is standard, maybe 180 days for some people. Let's give him a great contract. He was supposed to be paid 90 days.
Mm-hmm. So basically, he wasn't.
So, with 2 months, he knew this was getting ripped off. He died in September. He was telling people in August or July or June that it getting ripped off, and he hasn't even got a royalty statement. His first royalty statement, he wasn't even do that. These people didn't want to talk and put that stuff in their head. Tupac mother was cool with shit at the time. After everything got sorted out. Tupac attorney, Donald Davis at the time, him and Shaq still talk to this day. And went to, up until this I know. So people, that just don't make sense. And then number two, if there was a problem, this says Jimmy, I need all his answers, so he would cut a check and then go back to that road. If there was an issue with that. As I say, the people who've been cheated and all that, the people who've been actions who don't know, it's so easy just to say, oh, you get cheated or that or this or that. But everybody that I ever heard talk, security guards, I don't even talk about none of those files. Kevin Ackey will take down executives because they are clowns. They don't know the business about money and royalties. But even Tracy or the person that posted his videos and all of that stuff, these people were fired. These people wasn't even working for Molly. I love her to death. But she wasn't, and I never heard her say anything bad. She hadn't even got fired by Tupac. Everybody that pretty much got fired, they're always speaking on this and this and this. 2 to 3 months prior to his death. So what do they know? All they know, if it is true, what they were told back in April or May, but maybe his opinions changed in June or July. Yes, that's the truth. What's been told. I think that's these people that built what they believe or whatever and just making up stuff because who's there to question it? But numbers and dates don't lie. It don't make sense. Don't make sense. And I thought it took him right there, right here in 2011. But I know right is right, wrong was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to leave somewhere when the people is controlling your freedom? David Kenner, who worked directly with you, and in my opinion, then they ran the company, was also the attorney doing his appeal. If David Kenner or Suge Knight or anyone like that was upset with Tupac, what would they would have done? Institutionalized Tupac. Had his appeal bond revoked for some reason. They would have no reason to kill him or anything like that. They would just have him go back to jail and humble him again. Mm-hmm. If anybody wants to do something like that. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Now, so the argument that all this time, he's going to leave you. He's not going to leave nobody until you know your appeal was about to get overturned. Why would you have people mad at you or upset that they're holding your freedom in your hand? Tupac had a 4-year jail still to do. He did not want to go back to prison. He had already said he was going to have the outlaw kill him if he had to go back to jail. All those albums and songs talking about those correctional officers at the prison he was at. You can't see me. We heard that song. How would you think it would have been for him in jail if he had to go back to jail?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a lot going on at the time. At the time, that's when we were dealing with Interscope leaving. The federal investigation FBI came and said that they were starting to probe. So we were dealing with that. Your CEO had just got put in jail for 9 years. So there was a lot going on at the time. I believe somehow someone at the Pacific Archives that was in charge of storing the reels somehow got to them and started leaking them out. Is what I believe, because I know the music that was there was never released. I believe Johnny J may have had something to do with it in it, because he had access to a lot of stuff that he was throwing on his hard drive as well. But it didn't make sense for Johnny J or anyone to do it when you think about it, because it was just hurting themselves. Back then, today, it would be okay to leak stuff. But in 97, 98, 99, that was unheard of. We didn't want our stuff on the mixtapes and then leak to until it was ready. Today, artists purposely leak stuff 6 or 7 months to test the waters, just to see what they think, what people thinking. But back then, that was unheard of. So to say that we leaked that or anything like that is crazy, unheard of. We still make money off that. Well, definitely still make money off of that material. They always have, and they probably lost money as well from it being leaked. That probably happened in about Tupac shooting happened in September. I think they created a payment with that sometime in October. They were trying to violate Suge on having marijuana in the system and being on probation, having drugs in the system, which we were trying to prove that it came from secondhand smoke. If you ever been in a recording studio, you know it's a lot of marijuana being smoked inside of a studio. And we believe that Suge didn't smoke marijuana. Suge was smoking cigars at that time, which gives you just about the same high as a marijuana joint with him, that I've been told, because I haven't smoked either one. But he was hooked onto the Cuban cigars at the time. And so my point being is, he had no reason to smoke marijuana at the time. We really believe if there was a dirty test, it was from secondhand smoke. And that was the reason he was hauled in and was dealing with his probation. And then they tried to say when we went to the Bahamas, after all the incidents that happened, they tried to get away from all the nonsense going on to get back to work. Suge wanted to rent a recording studio in the Bahamas, and they tried to say that he didn't get permission to leave the country, which we had documentation that he did. And so as they saw that those hearings they were going to lose, I guess somebody in the VA office or someone came. That's correct, and that happened. What happened was Suge went in jail October 22nd of 97, 96. He got sentenced in February of 1997. And his brother-in-law, Morris Anderson, was running the label at the time. Well, he was the general manager of the label at the time, and he started dealing with the day-to-day operation. And it got overwhelming for him. And I was assisting Norris probably starting, probably about in 2007, March or April 2007, and then about in July of 2007, maybe August of 2007, I took and started running the day-to-day operations for the record company until she came home. 97, yeah. So I started in about September 1997. What happened was, that was a Suge and Daz conversation directly, where what happened was, number one, Daz witnessed some discipline being handled on Snoop at a Master P vineyard at the Universal Amp in Universal Studio, which that's his cousin. So I think that may have hurt him a little bit. But more so, Daz and Suge had a one-on-one. Daz wanted to be a rapper. Suge felt he was best served as a producer. Daz wanted to do an album, do a bunch of videos and all of that, which he eventually did on his own, and it didn't do anything. But Daz believes in every song that's done, there should be a video done to it. Back then, you only did 2 or 3 videos on an album. So if you ever look at Daz, if you look at any of the Death Row histories, all the way back to Snoop's album and Dre's album, Daz in every one of those videos, Daz was the person, he's a video groupie. He was the first one at the video shoot before the production crews get there, when he knows the video is being shot. He always was in the video. And Daz wanted to be an artist where Suge felt Daz was best as a producer. And they had a fallout behind that, and that's when Daz no longer, he was no longer a part of Death Row anymore. That was always that was how it was always set up, so everybody knew my role. I always was the guy that had to deliver the bad news or whatever, but that's what security does. And then even as far as I had to do a role of running the security and running the company.
Okay.
So that could be true, but everybody knows the real now. Has he done anything for them now since they came home and they got the chance to talk to him? And most of the artists at the time were going up there to visit him on their own. Matter of fact, any one of them, and Danny Boy, all of them, they were going up there to visit him themselves. So how could, they had conversations with him. So any artist you can think of other than Snoop was about the only one that I could think of that didn't visit him in prison. Daz and Corrupt sure did. Jewel sure did. Danny Boy, who was the biggest bitch, he sure did. Sam Snead had left prior to that. Dre had left already. So that's pretty much it. So anybody who try to say Reggie did this or did that, is untrue. Because they all were speaking to him directly. No, I stayed. Suge got out in August 2001. I left Death Row in January 2002. My reasoning was simply, I saw that the business wasn't being handled. It was still on some hood shit, and I had worked too hard from 97 to 2002, in my opinion, to make the company, number one, in the black, and number two, away from all of that negative perception, and she didn't know how to leave it alone.
Bombfirst.com.
When people said the company was in the black, it was an $8 million appeal bond up. I was sitting at the courts that I had raised, through the company and had on the appeal for the Broomfield matter on the corrupt situation. We had no lawsuits at the time. We had nothing, nothing pending. We had no outstanding bills or anything. She'd like to try to say he lost the company while he was in jail. But that's untrue. When Suge came home, the company was in the black. All that negative stuff and everything that he lost was in 2005 when he was in charge of the company by himself. It was because he didn't know what he was doing. He had lost Reggie Wright and David Kenner that really ran the stuff for him and it kept everything afloat. And once he was by himself because he believed the hype that he could do it himself was when he lost the company himself.